Alrighty, it's time. The first thing on reassembly, we're going to install this bushing in the upper spring hanger in the frame. I'm going to lubricate it with some of this engine assembly lubricant I have, but even just plain old grease would work. Apply liberally on it. And so hopefully it'll help it slide in place. And then I'm also going to take here and put some in the hole itself there where the bushing's sliding into. And one more thing before we go try putting this in, I'm going to take the chisel, the rounded end, and just work it around that grease and just sort of maybe help put the rubber part of the bushing in place and see if we can get this started in. And first attempt was unsuccessful, so we're going to take and work the chisel through again and try to straighten it out and make it more ready for the bushing install. Ready, now I'm going to take the punch and put this bushing on the end of the punch and try tapping it to get it started in the rubber grommet with the hammer. Once it starts in, it'll be no problem, but it's just sort of the little key is the matter of getting it started. And I'm going to take and put a socket over it that fits nice right in around the bushing and start pounding. And it's starting to want to go in. And take and hit some more with the hammer. If all else fails, hit it with the hammer, but of course, it would have been nice on the bushings that come with the new spring hangers if they would have gave you like the bottom on the whole bushing, but all they did was give you this center part. And the bushing in theory does come out of the frame. There's the center part that we're trying to put in, plus the rubber grommet and then the outer layer, but this is what came with it. And this isn't working, trying to get it in with the hammer and the punch. So we're going to use the tool here. This was used in the video of this assembly. If you didn't watch it, that's fine, but it's a ball joint tool I bought at Harbor Freight, and we're going to start it in with that. That hopefully will get it going. With like I say, once you get it started on, this is a clumsy tool, sort of heavy to lift up above your head and start, but it does do the job once you have it positioned. Alrighty, it's about where as good as it's going to get. I'm going to try to support the tool, guide it, and turn with the ratchet at the same time until it starts going in. And so far, it's wanting to slide off the bushing, but now it just took and sort of maneuvered it around. It's going, and it's starting to turn in. Alright, here we're going to take here and move around a little bit. You can get a better view of what's happening. My hand was sort of in the way of the camera, and as you can see, it's wanting to slide off the bushing yet, unfortunately. And we're going to take this back off. I think it did start in a little bit. One of my problems, I think, when the old bushing come out, it did rough the edge of the rubber grommet up some, but it does seem, again, you see I'm pulling on it and it didn't just fall out. I'm going to take now and put this socket over it. I believe it was a 13/16 socket, and just hit it with a ball peen hammer and see if we can start it in some more and get it going into the grommet. Alrighty, filling around the back side. It is starting in, but that wasn't working, the socket and the hammer. So we're going to put the ball joint tool back on it and get some more pressure against it. And like I say, first don't succeed, try again, as with anything in life. Yeah, at least look at the bright side. If you're watching this video, you can watch how I'm doing it, and maybe you got a better way and you avoid my mistakes. Or, like I say, I don't know if there's only so many ways to do something, but okay, I do believe. Yeah, look at that. It is going in. Finally, we have the right, everything's going into place and working like it should, and it's going to be no problem now. It just had to be a little bit stubborn to start with. Now, yes, the clicking of the ratchet, the sweet sound of victory and success, and yep, it's well but done. So then we can move on. The lower ones won't be near as bad to do because they actually are a whole bushing. Then we'll finish this up, and then we'll put I only have to do one. If you didn't watch the disassembly video, my one on the right side, the bolt came out. I'm not going to be replacing this, and it's in. Okay, now we're going to be putting the one in the low relief spring. Going to clean some rust out of this first with the wire wheel on the end of the drill. Every little bit will help. And there certainly was enough rust built up in it. You can see it just flying away. Had my drill I bought there at the Goodwill store. You see the price tag on it yet. Is doing the job. Yeah, I can say you can't beat when you get those good deals. And just here work some more. Can't really overdo it. Just want to get it good and cleaned up before putting the new bushing in. I'm going to work some from the opposite side of the opening on the leaf spring. Okay, that pretty much concludes the cleaning with the drill here. Just about done. About all I'm going to get. It's about, like I say, good enough to do the job. And now we're going to take and put some grease in it here with the grease gun. Again, every little bit helps here to get rid of the rust, fight the rust. Now I'm going to just take and slide the grease around with my index finger and coat all the surfaces inside. Okay, that's done. Now we're going to get our bushing, and get the bushing ready for installation. And as rusty as this is the inner side of the spring, even though this is new bushing, we're going to coat that up good. Every little bit, like I say, just because it came apart hard don't mean it has to go back together hard. And we're just going to take and tap it here with the hammer to start it in. And now we're going to use part of this ball joint tool and just hit it with the hammer to get it started. Like I say, just so long as it gets started in some, then we'll go use the ball joint tool, the C-shaped part of it itself. Okay, after hammering, I'm going to take here, want to start it in just a little bit more before I go get the tool, and that should do the job. And then we're going to go get the tool, and this part we were using the hammer, put that between the bushing and the threaded head of the tool that you turn against, and that'll spread out evenly against the outside of the bushing once it's positioned. Again, the tool's awkward in that by itself, and then you throw this extra piece in. It's a little hard to get started on, but lo and behold here, it will go. Just takes a little bit of, there we go, it's tightened up. Once you get it tightened, it does seem it'll stay on its own. Now I'll go get the ratchet, and we'll start turning away on it, and see once it starts pushing in. One thing with using this, I mentioned this in this assembly, if it seems to be really binding up or something, readjust the tool or do something that's not going in straight to your bushing or coming out and disassembly. But every tool can give you a different angle on it on the camera. You can actually watch it going in when we start turning. And it is starting to make pretty good headway. It's over halfway in, and tool's turning nice, and it's doing what it's supposed to do, and the bushing's going in. And pretty much everything you could ask for when it comes to old vehicle work. Couldn't get any better than this. I need a few more turns, and it'll be in as far as I can get it at the moment. And you can see we're down to, it's only about looks like about about a quarter-inch sticking out. And that'll be, that's as far as it's going because of that adapter piece on it right now, it hit. And I'm going to take the tool back off and see how far the bushing is in. It is actually, it needs pushed in a little bit more, so we're going to reinstall the tool again, along with an extra piece to come with this ball joint tool. Like I said, this is actually a ball joint tool, but it works on spring bushings. But this little, I think they call it a catching cup or whatever, but now since the bushing's in, and I have the room to get it in the opening of the tool, I'm going to put that on and then turn again, and then that'll let the bushing push in about that. It looks like we need about another 1/8 inch is all we really need. And we're turning on it, and see once here after a couple of turns, we'll take it back off and check to see what we do have on it as far as progress. Should be there because it was going nice and easy. Okay, going to remove the tool here and see once where we're at. And of course this piece stuck on. Now go figure. Oh well, a little hammer will fix that. And there is the one on the left side of the vehicle done. Now we're going to move on to the right side, starting with the wire wheel and the drill and cleaning the rust out of the leaf spring again. And as I'm making this video, there could be a future video, is tailpipe replacement, because I noticed my tailpipe's got a little pinhole rusted in it there. It's maybe perhaps another video in the future. Okay, we'll here clean some more on this, and just like the other side, just going to take the wire brush on the end of the drill and work it on from the inside part of the leaf spring and clean some more rust out of it. Just try to get as much as humanly possible out. Don't have to be perfect, just the biggest majority of it. And as with the left side, we're going to do the same on the right side, just the grease gun. Smurf some grease in this so it'll help install the new bushing, which that one on the other side went in pretty nice, and this one should work just the same with the proper preparation like is getting performed at the present time. As I've emphasized in other videos, I like to be thorough. I like explaining something. If you're watching this, maybe you know some, or maybe you or never done it before, and I like to gear it towards somebody that, totally don't know anything, that they'll know what they're getting into. Again, if you know a lot of this stuff, you can skip through a bunch of it. But I know myself, if I'm learning something new, I appreciate to be told everything. If something you don't know the steps. Okay, there we lube the bushing up, and we're going to take, this time I'm going to just take a socket there and hammer and start tapping it in and get it started. This one actually seems to be going even a better start than the one on the left side of the Explorer. And here comes our tool again. We're going to hook it up. Open it up a little bit more to get it around the bushing. And even though it is virtually the same as doing the one on the left side, especially if you're just learning this, I like to, even though it is two bushings, they go in the same if you show both. If you're still a little bit in wonderment after watching the first part, well, here's another shot at it, little different angles, different lighting. That is one thing that's tricky on doing vehicle work, is keeping the lighting, but I'm trying to do as good as I can. And that's sort of something, speaking of learning something, I'm learning as I'm going. You go back through and watch, and I will admit it is tricky to do the lighting under cars, but we're trying to improve upon that. Okay, and here we're going to start turning this one in, and it seems to be starting in just nice as can be. As emphasized earlier and a couple times, the big thing is you can just tell by how the ratchet's turning, and if it is going in without binding, then it is. No problem. The big thing is to try to start them in straight, that they're not going in on a bind. I've had trouble in the past, not so much with spring bushings, but a while back there I used to drive full-size Chevy trucks and Suburbans with the like 80s model stuff that had the front axle joints, and I replaced a bunch there. It's like a universal joint, and I know I had times doing those that they wanted to start in crooked, and then you end up with a mess. You usually end up messing the universal joint up. So that's sort of just why I warned on the making sure it's going in straight. And we are to the point it's down to only about another ½ inch to turn in. It's going just fine and dandy. Yeah, these old cars can be a pain, but on the other hand, doing this sure beats, in my opinion, being tied down to car payments and having to worry about it every month. I guess to each his own, whatever you prefer more. And actually, you gain a skill out of doing it too. And besides a new skill, you get a nice collection of tools accumulated over the years working on vehicles. Which most of my tools, including this ball joint tool, were under $100. Now this was up there. I think I paid, it was around for that ball joint tool, I think it was like $79, but good old Harbor Freight had the 20% off coupon, so it wasn't even that much with the tax and everything. I'm just going to take care of a socket and a hammer instead of putting the tool back on and just pounding in another little bit into the leaf spring. And the socket that fits nice over the outer edge of the bushing is a 15/16 is what I was using, a ½ inch impact socket, and still just a little bit more it's going to take to make myself satisfied. And there's a little bit, zoom in, get a look at it in place, and there's my tailpipe again. That's been shown in the video a couple times. I guess in the future video, I mentioned this in the disassembly, we'll have a video on replacing the tailpipe. Alright, enough here messing around. It's time here to move onwards and get here to the easier part of this, just about done, is actually installing the new spring hangers. And there it is. Actually, I have included a link on this. I bought these off the internet. I think it was around $56 for the pair that came with both of them. And just going to slide it first there up over the upper bushing and the frame. Got our bolt ready that it's ready to slide through. And they come with new bolts and nuts. Yeah, I'm going to have to take care and just wiggle it around. I'm trying to keep it there that I'm not blocking the light with my own body, but I'm failing at times on it. But there, it goes through, and we'll take a little peek here at it from the side I slid it in on, and we'll get a close-up here, and there's, once I get the light in position, there's where it slides in from the inside of the frame, and that is how it had been in disassembly. The nut faces outward, which I like better. It probably wouldn't matter which way you did it. And now we're going to take here, there's a flat washer. I'm going to put the flat washer on, hold the bolt from the back while doing so, or just push it back out and turn the nut on it. And that covers that much. And for right now, just going to let it finger tight till we get it all together. Alrighty, now we're going to just have to take and put the lower bolt in through the leaf spring, the lower bushing. Like I say, right now we are working on the left or the driver's side. And just slide it, pull the spring down a little bit. And here you can get a better view of it actually going in, because it's not heading up between the frame. And it's going in. And down to take here, it sort of wanted to stick. Lightly tap with the hammer. Be careful if you do this that you don't mess the threads up on the end of the bolt. But I didn't. You'll see here in a second. Put the washer on. And the nut will turn right on, which is proof that the threads haven't got, when I tapped a little bit there, I didn't mess the threads up any, and they're not. So same deal, we're just going to finger tighten, and then we're going to move on. And I bet you never guessed, after the left side, we're going to put the right side spring hanger on. When I first started on this, I actually thought the right side was the only one that needed change, but the spring hangers, you could buy them single, but you spent within like $15 of what the pair cost. And when I actually got looking at it, I came to the conclusion they both really did need changed, although the one on the right side was in worse shape than the one on the left side. Okay, there we already got our bolt in the top and our nut and washer on, starting it in. And we're going to just take here, once we get that, and same deal, put the bottom one in. And sort of manipulate between the spring hanger and the spring. And there, it's about where it almost wants to stay on its own, the leaf spring, when you put it in. And see here, we can get the bolt in. This one seems like it's going to go in. Yep, first time, didn't even have to tap on the lower one on this one. And put the washer and nut on again. Just same old, same old. The Explorer I'm working on here has been in the family for a long time. It was my mother. She bought it in 2004 and passed it down to me about 5 years ago. She got a newer Explorer. Okay, there's our bolts in. And here, a look around the back side. And if you notice, the bolt head has those tabs on it, which comes in handy when we're going to be tightening these up. And I'm going to tighten them here with the torque wrench. Now, the torque wrench, I don't think is really a necessity, because even the repair book is calling for as little as 75 foot-pounds up to 115 foot-pounds. I'm going to make them 115, but such a broad range, I don't think it's really the end of the world, but we'll do it with the torque wrench and be technical here in the video. And if you notice those tabs on the bolt, so you don't have to hold the head of the bolt when you're turning, because that tab goes against the spring hanger and keeps it from spinning around in a circle. And now we're going to reach up in. This isn't as easy to get to with the tailpipe, and do the upper bolt on the right side of the Explorer. But on the other hand, even though it's not probably necessary in this particular situation, if you're going to work on cars, yes, a torque wrench is something you should own. And if you notice, I used the clicking style torque wrench, which definitely is the way to go for working on vehicles instead of the one that has the needle. Okay, now we're going to tighten the ones up on the left side of the vehicle. Nothing real different on this, except there's not the tailpipe in your way over here. Yeah, and on this torque wrench, I've owned it for years, and I don't remember where I bought it. I think it's pretty much the equivalent, but it wasn't. They were not in my area yet. It's about like you probably would buy at Harbor Freight, but don't ask me to this day where I bought it. Okay, now we got the upper one. We're getting it tightened up, and we're just about done on this. And soon just going to take and jack the rear end up, and we have the tires and wheels to reinstall yet. But furthermore, the jack plus this adapter I'm using did come from Harbor Freight. Okay, now we're going to put the tires and wheels back on. And I'm going to start with putting the one on the left side. Sort of pretty much self-explanatory, but in my videos I like to show the job start to finish, and well, you can't drive the car without the tire and wheel one, so this is finishing the job up. But on the subject of that jack and adapter, I put a link in the description to both. The jack's a great floor jack, and again, if you didn't have that adapter, you could just pick it up. I mentioned this in the video with disassembly. Of course, just pick it up at the pumpkin of the rear end. I'm sure everyone pretty much knew that. And that adapter, though, in like cases like this, a higher vehicle is great. Now, on the other hand, most cars, not the extra height of it, you can't get underneath, and you saw how nice it was on this. It saves all this, gives you a nice even lift up at the vehicle, but besides sport utilities and pickups, it's probably not, if you only own cars, isn't much of a help. But furthermore, I assume, though, you probably own an Explorer, Mountaineer, or a Ranger pickup, or you probably wouldn't be watching this, so yeah, maybe it's something to consider. But again, the jack without that will do just fine, or even other jacks. Okay, there we got our lug nuts tightened up, and jacked it back up some here. Get the jack stand out from under this side, and then we're going to take and go and move over to the right side of it. Okay, and wanted to stick a little bit coming out. Probably should have jacked a little more, but anyhow, we got it. And here comes the tire and wheel ready for installation over here on the right side. And I got the aggressive winter treads on it. This is actually, as I said earlier, it was a hand-me-down from Mother. She put those on about 2 months before she found that other Explorer that she really likes, so they'll last probably, I'm sure, the rest of the life of the Explorer, because I only probably put about 2,000 miles a year on it. I have other vehicles I ride. Okay, going to take and just start these on fingers, the lug nuts, and then just initially torque them up in a crisscross pattern with the cordless impact wrench. But when we let the Explorer down, these I'm going to check with the torque wrench and torque them properly, since the aluminum wheels. I have had trouble with aluminum wheels wanting to work loose, especially on Jeeps. I'll admit the Explorer I haven't had no issues, and you can torque them and they still want to come loose, so I've been trying to be very cautious on aluminum wheels. Okay, and there she gets set down. Nice and easy back to the ground, and here comes out the torque wrench. And the lug nuts get torqued to 100 foot-pounds, so we'll begin working the crisscross pattern and torque them all up. But on that story of the Jeep, that was a 88 Jeep, back to my mother. She had it in the 90s, had aluminum wheels, one of the first vehicles in the family with them. You could tighten it, and you might as well on that every time you took the wheel off. Drive it about 5 miles and check them, and I assure you at least 1 out of 4 wheels, the lug nuts were coming back loose, and then you had to take and re-torque them. But then, now for useless information, the second time around, they wouldn't want to work loose again, but good luck in about a month if you went to pull the tire and wheel off. But I don't know, I think it was just a bad alloy in the aluminum on that 88 Jeep on those wheels. Alrighty, now we're going to torque the ones up on the other side of the Explorer here, and that pretty much concludes this whole project. I hope you found this video useful, informational. I try to, when I have something that needs done, and if I have vehicle-wise, and I feel it'll be something that somebody else has had the same problem, can use the information, I like taking the time and putting the video together. So any comments you have, constructive criticism, likes, dislikes, or appreciate a subscription to the channel, all be appreciated. Alrighty, catch you in the next video. Remember, it's best to fix instead of junking it.